this with us to New York.
That's amazing.
I'm also going to record.
Got all these buttons.
Yeah.
Who's awake? I know those kids that are on our chat feed were chatting up till 3 a.m.
Oh,
They're chatting all the time.
I know. If you saw, I sent them a message. I'm like, we're going live, and I always talk about them because they're fabulous. Again, I don't understand half of what they're saying. So, yes, children, I'm older than you are. It's super fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of like initials and emojis. I don't know if we speak.
And
I don't know if I'm fluent in that anymore. Well, hi, ladies. Happy Saturday, especially happy Saturday.
Everybody,
happy Saturday.
This is for my East Coasters. I know everybody stayed up late, but you gotta look beautiful. So break out the ice. Anyway,
especially with the late West Coast games. I've seen a lot of people complaining on the West Coast about the games being on late. I gotta be honest. I think they're on late and we're on West Coast time.
It's not even that it goes so late. It's like, I don't know what to do with that time now before that game. I'm honestly now scrambling and ready. I'm so rushed at 4 to finish up work. Sometimes I'm listening to on the way home. But then all of a sudden I realized, oh, I still have 3 hours. I'm like, I don't know what to do now.
That's what alcohol is for.
Yes, agreed.
That's what tequila is for. It's really thrown off my dinner schedule, to be honest, because like last night we wanted to wait to go out to dinner. So we're like getting to the restaurant and they're like, we're closing.
Oh,
that's late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, welcome to Double Defense. For anybody new that is joining us, we are an all-female New York Rangers hockey podcast made up of 2 New York Rangers hockey fans based in Los Angeles, California, and 1 Pittsburgh Penguins fan based in Calgary. Go figure. We love talking hockey, and we especially love talking New York Rangers hockey, and we especially love talking New York Rangers hockey after such an amazing win last night over the Edmonton Oilers. And there's a lot that we want to cover today, but I think we definitely want to kick off by talking about that incredible game, because if you had watched the first period of that game,
you were done. You were done. You were done.
Rangers
Everyone's like, get rid of Shesty, trade this guy. You suck. And I'm like texting like, ugh, like there was a lot of ughs and args, right?
There were a lot of ughs and args.
Yes.
In the first period. I think we ended the first period down 3-0. And it felt a little bit unfortunate. And I think it felt like a write-off for a lot of people, Rangers fans, and for a couple of Edmonton fans that were texting me during the game. There was some gloating happening, but I think those words got eaten very quickly.
Ooh. So I've decided that I'm going to have to create a drink for them called let's not wait to the third period to score, guys, right? So I think maybe this is what I was thinking about earlier. Like for them, I think their drink should be a combination of, a Red Bull, a B12 shot, add in a little bit of lemon and ginger just to give them that energy, followed by a quick whiff of those smelling salts. That's going to get them going, right? And for us, we need to all calm our shit. so maybe just a shot of Jameson with a little bit of lavender, light a candle, and so
meditate. Go ask for a hug. Ask for a hug.
I think it'll translate into some Canadian beer for our drink pairing tonight still, but now you know what it really does mean. So there's a lot that goes into that thought of a drink pairing. So if you're listening and you see it, just know that one drink that I'm going to put up there in a bit represents what I just said.
It's always been very thought through. Yeah, I mean, what an interesting turnaround. And even though they were down 3-0 at the end of the first, and I think Shesterkin struggled a little bit. Like you could tell he really wasn't on his game. But I don't think this is a team that you can count out. And this is a complete 180 from the beginning of the season when we would be up by 3 goals and give up that lead. Now this is the team that you cannot snooze when you have a 3-goal lead on, because they absolutely came from behind. I think they played smartly. I think Shesterkin finally turned up to the game. We have this running joke that the Rangers have like a bus that takes them to the game, and sometimes the bus gets stuck in traffic and it doesn't turn up until the second period. So like Shesterkin got stuck in traffic. He really didn't turn up until the second period. But I think
typical Ranger fashion, we dye our hair more often now, at least us women, because we're fans of the Rangers. I mean, I can literally go in there and complain to my hairstylist, so that this team ages, and that's not new, actually, So, yeah, I was watching and I was thinking about it too, like, everybody wanting, they were all counting Shesterkin out and thinking that Halak was going to come in on the second, but I think Halak's going to play tonight. Yeah, and I'm chiming in. I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. And here's the thought I was thinking. That sounded weird, but like a lot of people, especially in the first.
It's the morning. This is what happens when we stay up late after a big win.
I had this thought I was thinking about. Especially in the first half of the season, a lot of comments were coming out about how, especially Shesterkin was not as good as he was before. He's not as good as he was last season. He's not as good as he was last season. And in the kind of the comments about some of the players too. But here's the thing, everything's alive and in motion. You cannot, I don't at least compare what happened last season to what's happening now, because you've got different players. They're shooting harder, they're older, they're wiser, they're younger, they're healthier. It's always emotion. Unless you have an exact scenario of before, then you don't have anything truly to compare. A statistic is just a point in time thing to go on and move forward. And right now, if you're looking at some of the things, and we'll talk about it, in a bit, they're on fire with milestones and breaking franchise records and tying them. So what happened? What happened to that first part of the season where people are just kind of throwing out that's junk to right now where we're at?
And also the ability, and I think, not enough can be said about the ability for Shesterkin to recognize when he's off his game and make a conscious decision to turn that around.
Right.
Holy crap. Like he did that last night. He came back into that game a different player. And I think also there's a camaraderie with his teammates. Like I think last year, part of why Shesterkin had to be so good is because there really wasn't that same, defense playing in front of him. And there were some issues with defense in this game for sure. But I think the team has also rallied around him to make sure that he's going to be totally supported. And yeah, it's okay if you let up 4 goals when we're going to get 6. So,
we finally clicked on that, right?
Yeah.
A while.
It did. Because at the end of the day, it's still about who wins the game. It's fine. Things can happen and things will happen. But the fact that he was able to turn things around like that, I'm so impressed by him today. I really just absolutely incredible. Just skill and like knowledge of himself as an athlete. I think that is so cool.
And we saw that in the Canucks game, which I was listening to as well, because they threw in this goalie, this first timer, and
Vancouver did. Yeah.
And so, and then the comments on that were pretty harsh, and not for him, but the fact they were talking about how his defense and his team really wasn't there for him. And how as a goalie for the first time do you have confidence with your teammates if they're not, in the position they need to be to kind of help you out as a goalie. So that was really a comment throughout the game from at least our announcers and their assessment for things. And that's an interesting thing. So that kind of goes to your point. Like he does have the confidence and it's a play of motion. Connor McDavid's amazing. And then I don't want to hear that other name anymore. I was tired of it. I heard it 1,000 times.
Draisaitl.
There's a few names I'm getting sick of, and one of them is not Crosby. What the heck? It's kind of like Jack Hughes, Draisaitl. I'm over it. They just get more annoying the more I hear them. So,
I think that's such a statement though about Vancouver. I mean, I think I harp on Vancouver every episode now, but it's such a statement, I think, to their club, to their culture. I feel for that goalie for his first time if his teammates didn't show up. I mean, there's so many layers to that, right? Like the team building, the trust, like there's so many elements to that and so many factors, but come on, like this is basic hockey 101, like show up for your team.
I think that was Halak's issue in the beginning. He was new and he was getting reamed for a lot of things, but I was there. I mean, aside from the Ducks game where I kind of agreed, he kind of, I was only feet away from him, so I kind of saw. But some of the other games, I don't really think it was him. I think it was more of a defensive issue. but it's collectively together that, it's not just one person. It's not just,
No.
our goalie, because in my opinion, I've always said that if the defense is doing their job, these pucks should never reach the goalie,
Yeah.
So, but they can't, and it happens. And guess
And
what?
I think you touched on it, Sarah. Like there has to be something in like the organization, just in like kind of like the support and the mentality in the locker room that is going to keep their goalies or whoever it is engaged and making sure that they do feel supported and they don't just kind of give up. And I don't know if it was something that was happening differently in the beginning of the season versus now, or there was a change in management style, or somebody really took some leadership behind the scene, or all of the above.
The new coach, it's the ownership. I mean, I'm quite surprised with just how the Vancouver situation has kind of gone on all season unaddressed from like a corporate level. I mean, Bettman's not one to really share or, show his hand or anything, but it's been probably the biggest thing we've talked about across the league all year is what's happening in Vancouver. And it's not okay. So I don't know how that gets rectified. I don't really think we've seen it in a long time.
Have they done their trades yet?
They traded before they got rid of Bruce Boudreau, but I don't know. Talkett is still Talkett. I don't know. Well, I don't think it's all up to him either. I really think ownership, it's a problem, and it's dirty and it's gross, and it's just in such a way that is not 2023 appropriate. I think we're going to see more come out of that. I don't know what it is, but somebody should step in. Like, it's gross, and they have this horrible reputation right now. And that goalie comment is just one piece of that.
Interesting. Yeah,
that's interesting. The West is sort of an interesting. It's just an interesting minefield. And I think we were talking about some stats earlier today, and the Rangers I think they have 74 points as of this recording, would technically be in first place in the West, but because
our whole division is in first place in the West, that's the problem.
Yes. Literally.
So I'm like, so I tell you, I was texting my child, who's a great source, like, well, did we ever play where we didn't have to play the West? He's like, no, not since like the early 1900s.
Yeah, back in the day, the originals.
Back in the day, yeah. So
miss those days, good old days.
Well, can we ever go back there? Why? It's so frustrating because the top. We're in the top 5 now, and 3 of the 5 are us in our own division, let alone conference. So yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, I imagine it's even more frustrating for the teams in the East that are battling for the wild card position.
Yeah.
As of right now, I'm just having a look. It's Pittsburgh and the Islanders. But every day that I look at that wild card spot, it's somebody else has knocked someone else out. So it is. This is a game of inches.
Oh my God,
right there, those 3. But and they have their own challenges too. So that'll be fun to watch. And I just want to keep that space, and we have a good space between them. So I'm really happy, and and we finally got a break this week too. New Jersey losing for a hot second.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Rangers and Islanders, like, I watched the highlights from that game last night. Like, what a snooze, first of all, honestly. And I keep saying it, and I don't mean to harp on my own team, but like, oh my God, it was painful to watch. And watching the highlights too from the San Jose Pittsburgh game, which was a lot lighter, more relaxed. I don't know what to say is going to happen between those teams vying for that position. Pittsburgh, again, I keep saying this, they look tired. They're old. The speed and agility that like New York, Edmonton, and Calgary have, which I think is going to be the difference maker for those 3 teams coming into playoff positioning. Pittsburgh's got a lot of homework to do over the summer. I can't really speak much to the Islanders, but like, it was not exciting hockey. It felt like you're just dragging your ass around. Like, I don't know.
Well, don't forget the Penguins have a few games in hand on these guys, so I don't know when they're going to collect on that. So,
they're collecting on it the week that we're in New York.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah, it'll be different when we're there. Yeah.
So that, and again, like we're kind of now within reach of maybe even seeing a change in in position with our top 3. I was listening. There was a guy doing a live feed on the New Jersey Devils. So Jack Hughes has been out, and he's back in the game today, and they're doing. So they're playing. Are they playing Penguins? Who are they playing?
I think they are playing Pittsburgh tonight.
Yeah. So Yeah, so that'll be interesting. But the other thing that I was listening to is listening to some other team complain about trade deadlines when we were just there and kind of having the same beef, and I think right now they're frustrated because I think Myers now, focused on on Devils, or at least their Devils are focused on Meyer, and Kane is still potential option. We have Kravtsov who's like demanding stuff, and now people are kind of wondering why we aren't acting on that. I would like just let him sit. No one cares. We're doing fine, and that's all that we care about. But the other teams, we're coming up on this deadline very quickly, and there are still teams that are going through these trade deals, and as I said too, I think that disrupts these players' momentum in how they're playing, because they know what's going on. Whoever's might be on the chopping block. I mean, are they at their best? Are they playing? So kind of curious to see how the Devils do in the next couple of days, and give us more breaks. We need them.
We do need them. Although we were running some statistics last night, and did you know that the Rangers statistically, if you look back on recent playoff history, to make the playoffs, teams generally, if you have 100 points, you're making the playoffs. The Rangers technically do not need to win another game. They need to not lose any other games, but they technically do not need to win, which is really like what an interesting place to be in. So every game that they win from here on out is another game that they can lose and statistically still make the playoffs. So without, if all things were equal, that's a great place to be in. I am taking a peek at the upcoming schedule though, and there's some really interesting matchups coming up. First, I mean, we've talked about how the Rangers are playing the Penguins 3 times within the span of a week in March, 2 of which we will all be at. So if anybody's going to be at the Pittsburgh, New York Rangers games in New York, that is on March 16th and March 18th. Please come give us a shout. We would love to say hello. Yes. But only a couple of days later, the Rangers play the Hurricanes on the 21st and the 23rd, 1 at home and 1 away. I mean, that could be.
Yeah, NHL loves us.
Whoever made the schedule.
Play all the hardest teams together. We're always we always have one of the most difficult schedules, right? Always.
It's Bettman sitting here like just plotting,
like Mr. Burns on The Simpsons.
Yes.
And he lost a bad bet somewhere along the line.
And speaking of that, I think the other thing that we wanted to talk about is the absolutely bizarre news that the NHL dropped last week, in that they're going to be airing the Rangers Capitals game, which I think is on March. I want to say it's March 14th. It'll be available to watch on ESPN, but if you watch the Disney version, they are going to animate it and insert characters from one of their cartoons as a way to encourage kids to be more interested in hockey.
I have so many questions around how all of that was chosen. Like, is it the demographics and the stats of like how many kids are in those areas, like to attract that team? Parents? Yeah, like what are the stats there?
And what happens when there's a fight and like they start cursing each other out? How is that going to be represented?
It'll be like, you're a bad man.
Yes.
No, but you're a nice man. Let's be friends.
Yeah. Are you gonna hug it out on the playground? Like, I don't know. And
Lego, is it cartoon or is it like Lego over?
Like Lego would be amazing. Lego.
I know. I would totally watch Lego movies. So
who's got the Lego deal? Is that Sony? I can't remember. I should know this. Or is it actually? I think it's Warner. Anyways, if anyone's following entertainment as much as the three of us do, Bob Iger had to comment on when the ratings were released. The not the ratings. I'm losing my train of thought. The financial reports were released about a week ago. He had to comment on the status of ESPN and how they weren't going to specialize it because Bob Chapek, that was his plan, was to kind of break it up and specialize ESPN. So he addressed that they weren't going to do that. And then like within a few hours after, they're releasing this Disney animated hockey approach. So obviously that was already in the works. You don't just kind of make that up as you go. This is a really interesting angle. I can't figure it out.
Yeah, is it on at 10 o'clock at night so children can watch it?
Right? Yes. We're scaling it all back. Like the game tonight, the Rangers and the Flames playing in Calgary is at 8 o'clock, which for me feels quite late. I mean, I enjoy watching the late game and it's over by 9 o'clock. So it's Saturday, but it's different, especially if you're going to aim at kids. Like that's a whole rehaul, right? Of your scheduling.
I'll have to pose that question out to my child who's 22 and see what his thought of it is, because my kids grew up in hockey.
Mhm.
My son's been playing hockey since he was 4. So to get him involved, we didn't sit him in front of a TV.
No.
We got him in the rink. And so
there's so many angles to it.
Yeah, and that's something somebody even put that on our Instagram as well when we posted about the ESPN deal. Like, what does engaging younger viewers in hockey really mean? Is it putting them in front of a television and having them watch cartoons, or is it going out and getting out there, playing it, getting to know the game, the sport itself?
Yeah.
I think that hockey's a fun sport to watch. I don't remember ever having to be coerced into watching it when it was just regular people playing on a screen versus a cartoon. It was fun. It was a fun environment. I think it still is. So it's just it's sort of weird decision making, and it just feels a little consumerist.
Oh, very. And like, are you going to animate every single game and every single team? Is it one per week, one per month? Is the idea to build up the fan base at that age for all teams or just a couple teams? What's the Disney angle? Are we going to see this at the Magic Kingdom? Like there's just so many.
Are they going to do basketball and football and soccer?
Yeah. Are they going to host like an all-star weekend of
Why
all?
don't they do the noodle bags? Like, why don't they throw those guys on there? That would be fun to watch.
I would absolutely watch that.
Where's the programming for us?
And as you were saying, Christine, you're like, is somebody going to air this in like a bar? Are we going to be sitting in a bar watching
the kids version?
Did you see I got shut down on that real quick? No.
If we thought it was hard to find games, in our where we live for the teams that we follow and our favorites are from other locations, it's going to be really tough to find the animated
Isn't it
version.
March 14th? That's when you guys arrive too. That's when you guys land in New York. So
so we'll just go find a bar to watch.
That's gonna be our
the animated game.
I'm
It's
sure.
gonna be our bar crawl. Can we put on this cartoon game? And they're like, no.
I wonder how many times sports people have turned up at sports bars and been like, can you put on the Disney Channel?
Nobody.
Literally nobody.
Well, and to go one step further, if you're going to be in one of the parks trying to watch one of those games, I remember the last time I was at Magic Kingdom trying to find a beer walking around that place. Like that was tough. So how are you going to like incorporate that atmosphere for the parents, let alone the children? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so many angles. We need a specialist. We need to talk to somebody, an expert.
Yeah,
Well, let's watch it and see how bad this fails too, and because the comments are going to be crazy.
Yeah,
the comments are definitely going to be good. I just hope there's a fight. I hope that Ovechkin's back.
A little cartoon fight.
I'm gonna make a note here. I know several Disney marketing people in the Canada office. Maybe we'll just like reach out for an interview or something.
That's funny.
And the other question of the day too is the Bally Sports West, or I think it goes by RSA or something. There's another entity that also has the rights to many hockey games that defaulted on a payment recently and could potentially be declaring bankruptcy. So again, if it was hard to find these games before, and there's so many issues associated with them, this is only going to keep getting harder. And I think as fans, and we've brought this up on this podcast before, we're happy to pay to watch these games. Just allow us to be able to do that. Give us a place, and also please give us a place where we can go where we're not all watching the game at completely different times. There's been many times, and I know Christine wants to talk about this, that she'll be watching the same game that I'm watching, and I'm either a minute or longer ahead. So it makes the enjoyment of like watching a game with a friend, and everybody messages back and forth. I hear other people talking about it on hockey podcasts all the time. If somebody's a minute ahead, you totally have spoilers.
Yeah, you get, and I'm like, what? Just like, although the biggest one was when Miller had scored that goal within, a couple seconds to win. And you were so good. You were like, is it over for you? And I'm like, yeah. And I was also following the NHL app, which was wrong. So now I'm seeing that we lost, and I get this cryptic message from Liz, and then I look up, just as I read it, I look up and we scored, and now I'm like, wait, is it gonna stick? You know, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. And so, you know, I had that, but yeah, right now, just to give you an example, Liz has ESPN, and so she gets a Ranger game with the Ranger feed in real time. I have center ice. I get 2 channels for each of the games most of the time. So I get the last night I had the Edmonton feed and the Ranger feed. The Ranger feed for me is delayed a minute. The Canadian feed is right on time. So now I have to make a choice. You know, I have to either watch the other feed, which, as you know, I did not enjoy, or, you know, I can listen to my guys, but, you know, I'm not even up with the game. I'm a minute behind.
But you know what you get that I don't get? I don't get the pregame or postgame.
Oh yeah.
They literally will start the game maybe 5 minutes before puck drop and end it the second that it's over. So I don't get, and I love the pregame and postgame. That's some of my favorite parts. And and what's also weird is if I put on the away game, I will get their pregame and postgame, but I will not get the Rangers one. Yeah. So I don't know if this is like an MSG. I'm guessing MSG made a deal with ESPN that does not include their pre and post game, but why not? Why not? Like,
it's opposite for Game Center.
It's interesting that you just phrased it that way, MSG. So I wonder if it's like the owners who have their hand in making part of that deal, because in Canada, we just all have Sportsnet, and CBC just depends on who has the broadcast rights, but you're watching the same experience, if that makes sense. From a Canadian perspective, if the games are in Canada.
I'm sorry, I should have said MSG, the world's most famous arena.
Right.
I forgot that part.
But like just the way you phrase that is that like the owners now making a deal instead of like as a group, as a conglomerate.
MSG has a lot of.
Why is mine delayed? I don't understand.
It's something we could ask on the tour when we go. How do you do your?
They're like, they're not gonna know. So, and don't forget too, if a game is on ESPN, I cannot watch it because I don't have ESPN. I do have ESPN Deportes, so. I watched the Devils
Spanish
game.
is getting great.
I watched the Devils game in Spanish again because now I'm watching other games.
You know, that Spanish, Christine, will be handy when it's double D at sea. That will be really handy.
Definitely. I want to hear Spanish Sam Rosen. I want to meet the Spanish announcer who's like the Sam Rosen equivalent.
But the worst part about like this channel is it's not even their own broadcast. All they're doing is repeating things. And when I watched the Devils game the other day, I could actually hear the American version, like underneath their commentary, so I could at least understand it because it was terrible. It was terrible. It's terrible. I mean, I would love to kind of have their own broadcasters giving their own take on it, but it's pretty fun. I mean, you hear Hughes, blah, blah, I had to, you know, and it's so fast. It's like a fast soccer game, so. It's enjoyable, and every once in a while I used to like watching the feeds when I had the NHL app, and sometimes I listened to like Montreal, like the French version, which is like that's kind of fun, yeah, because it sounds exotic. I could do that every once in a while. I don't mind.
We should get Patrick Waugh to commentate a game. I think that'd be interesting to listen to. He's just so angry all the time. I love it.
So we are recording this on Saturday morning, the 18th. Sarah is going to be going to the Flames Rangers game tonight. Yes. Do you have a little preview of what we might see during that game?
Well, I'm really excited. And as I was watching the highlights from the game last night, because I really wanted to feel that energy, I was getting it through your text, but like I really needed that first term experience. And no surprise out of that game last night, just from like the building and the people angle and listening, Christine, to the commentary as I got it. Like it's just
that guy.
Everything in that arena is like everything I felt when I was there. Like I had no surprises on that. I was like, it's a party. Edmonton is like, I don't know. I think it's a party every game, regardless of who's playing or what position.
That guy needs more than ice this morning. That guy was...
Oh yeah, I bet either he's still going or he's like out.
He's like, we're all tired here at Roger Parade. I'm like, you're not tired. We're just getting going.
And my earbuds just fell out.
I'd also say one of the interesting things, you know, I think that
I got really excited. Sorry.
At a lot of the away games we've watched, and there's been all the commentators have talked about how many Rangers fans there are in the crowd, and there's chants of "Let's go Rangers" and all of that. I don't think there were like 2 Rangers fans at the
there was someone
Oilers
I
last
was-
night, and the camera kept finding them. There was like one guy who kept standing up, and every time the Rangers would score, they would go to this one guy. And I just want to say thank you to that one guy. He was very much felt supportive. And then there were a bunch of people right behind the bench that were all wearing Rangers fans. But I can imagine that for the Oilers and for the Flames, this is going to be heavy.
Yeah.
Flames.
There's a mission for you tonight, Sarah. Go and take pictures with at least how many? 2 Rangers fans? I
gotta give you 5. I gotta give you 5.
Yeah,
I
I
wanna
think
see 5.
it'll be 5. Just the nature
Let's
of
go find 5.
Edmonton's very blue color versus Calgary's very white color. So I feel like there'll be a little more.
But you gotta
and
find them and take
Yeah.
pictures with them.
Oh, it won't be
And we'll
hard.
post-
It'll
and
just
we'll
be
post
red
them.
and blue. The blue will
So-
stick out.
So our post can feed up to 10, like can hold up to 10 pictures. So your mission is to go and get as many pictures with the Ranger fans as you can, and we'll post that tomorrow.
All right, and I'll have Jax keep his eye out as well. Yeah, we're gonna go down early. You're gonna go to the happy hour. My dad's like super excited.
Better yet, if it was me, I would be doing secret selfies with other fans. So when they're not looking, you just like,
just creep
take
in
a
there.
picture.
And you have to teach Jax to say, "My mommy has a podcast. You need to follow her."
Oh, he does talk about it at school apparently because his teacher is also a Penguins fan. Anyways, yes, we'll talk about that later. And no worries, I will recruit him to recruit for us. I am excited for this because I think we're gonna pick up from the Feb 6 game, which I still think was the best game of the season for the whole league. For all the hockey that I watch, which is I'm never consistently watching one team, I'm watching many. I still think that game was just it's one for the books.
Yeah, I want to know if they're going to go back after Trouba after
Yeah,
that hit.
well,
There's talk. There's talk.
Trouba, I think, is the only player I'm concerned for, but I know will hold his own tonight. But Dubé as well, like as my husband and I were just talking about this, Dubé has been on the team for a while, but he's so young, and I feel like we're just starting to see him kind of come out of it. He's on second or third line. He's a great supporting player, but we're starting to see him lead a little more in the defense angle, so which is really nice. Kadri, I think too, for Calgary is going to be the one to watch because he's like such, he's got this reputation for being such a nice guy, and yet when he gets hit, it's like, oh my God, the world stops. But he lays dirty hits too, especially when he was in Toronto. So
he admitted it was a clean hit. So
yeah,
is there still gonna be some retaliation? I think there will be.
I think there will be. I'm hopeful because come on, scraps. Like that whole game was full of scraps. It was great.
That game was great.
We're at
Yeah.
the point now where we want that energy anyway, because again, I've always said that we, for an East Conference, we typically tend to play more strategic, and the West Conference really adds in this element of physicality, going back like the Kings barreling through to win the Stanley Cup. And so we can't survive going into these playoffs without using, and upping our physicality on these games. So any opportunity, honestly, that we have to do that, I think we need it. So I expect it to be good. And then it's fun watching Steve Valiquette being like, that was so fun. I want more fights.
Yes.
He's so fun to watch when he's happy. He's great.
I'm like, I'm in that mode too. I'm like, I kind of like it. It's really hot. I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited.
And Sarah, goaltending, who's going to be in for Calgary? Do you know?
I think it's Markstrom again. I actually didn't look this morning, but I would think it's Markstrom. I wouldn't be putting in the other one. I'd be putting in Markstrom.
Yeah, it'll be such a good game.
It'll be a good game.
So there's gonna be a lot of pressure tonight too, because in the last 2 games, the Rangers have broken a lot of franchise records and tied a few. They're now I think second in the league, third in the league in defensive points, and we've just broken some with our point streaks and our game streaks. I mean, I think we've had 2 7-point or 7-game streak season.
Yeah.
So, last game it was 6 and we broke a record, we tied a record since 2015, 2016. Now it's going back to 1991. And so tonight's, I think as we get to this point, there's a lot of pressure, and I don't know if these guys are following their own stats within the franchise. Just like we were watching, or we're hoping that Panarin would get that goal and break, this little franchise record of points in 2 games, or goals rather. And he came so close more than once. I was telling Liz, like I missed it, I couldn't find it, but there was some quote about the other player blocking his shot, and he's like, I don't like him anymore. It's so cute. So I like the funness, but I think when we start getting to this point too, there's pressure and in keeping that, because when they lose, I mean, it's going to happen. Whoever they're playing, if it was Edmonton last night, that guy would have been all over it, like, yeah, they lost and we're the best, but thank God they didn't. I'm like, oh my God. So I feel I get more anxious with these type of things, because I want to keep going, and enjoy the ride, but every time that they win, it's going to go, what's going to happen tonight when they win, and it goes back to like it's a franchise record now, and they're kind of beating all these these little statistics that put pressure on fans and the team, and all the way up the line. So
well, hopefully they're able to channel that into good energy and positivity and scoring. I would have really
it fires them up, actually. I think they kind of like that, and that they like to get proved wrong. And again, we don't show it, and I like that. I mean, I was thinking about Kreider too. A couple seasons ago, he was more animated, and you saw it, but now we don't really see that Kreider now.
But we see smart Kreider, and that's what I noticed yesterday. And I feel like what this team has started to do is they've started to like really learn from what happened in the previous game. I thought yesterday they played smart in the second and third periods. Those were some smart plays. Kreider and Mika had a really good smart goal. I thought all of it just felt like very strategic, very well executed. The only thing that I would love to see tonight in the Calgary game is see Hedl score, because he came so close last night. And Hedl, I have to say, out of everyone, has like the saddest sad face you have ever seen. It is like watching like a little puppy dog. Like, it is just so sad. And he missed so many goals last night, and he would go, oh, like it was so heartbreaking. So I feel like he's going to be on a mission to score. I want to give Sarah like a scavenger hunt of things to find during the game and take pictures of, like Mika and Kreider with the little leg pats. You have to get a Mika and Kreider hug. You have to get that on camera.
I gotta get a list.
That is your mission. You need Benajad.
Mika, Kreider.
That was so
leg pet. Okay.
I mean, first get the hug, because there will always be a hug. But so last night after they scored that goal, they were sitting on the bench together and they were like patting each other's leg. And Christine texted me about it. I was like, oh, I noticed that too.
Oh, that's cute.
It is very,
I did want to say, watching the post-game interviews this morning, Connor looked like so tired. I mean, rightfully so. It was quite the back and forth last night, but he also could have been celebrating, because he got his 100th and 101st point, which he has now had 6 100-point seasons, tying with active players right now. Obviously Ovechkin's out, but he's only tied with Sidney Crosby right now. So the only other comparisons I have to that is like Phil Esposito and Mario Lemieux did that 6 times. And
it's a hell of a stat. Wow.
It is, but obviously the great one holds the record for 9, which I'm sure Ovechkin's going to go after too when he returns. But that's quite a celebration. But Connor looks so rough, and like he's younger than me, and he looked like an old man last night. I don't know.
Well, I don't know how many. Maybe next time, let's see how many minutes he's out there for. That's kind of where I go to each time. Yeah, these guys are gonna, if they're put on the ice for 30 to, between 30 40 minutes a game, when everyone else is getting cut on time, on ice time, because they want him to score, then he's going to be tired. He's going to score, but what does that get you? Wait, who's the team that usually has multiple scoring players each game? I think that's us. So so I'm okay with that, and yet, it's funny, we're still breaking records. Kreider just kind of, he just beat Messier in franchise scoring. So I don't understand why everyone was crying about Kreider this whole season, when he just actually kind of quietly snuck in there and scored and broke a record, and so and he's climbing up there too. He's bound to hit a few more of these numbers too. So let's continue to do that, because I think, was it last week, we had so many players score, and I think 11 had points, 9 had points. I mean, so we're not just having 1 or 2 people getting points and goals. We're getting 5, 6, 7 players each game getting points. And yeah, I'd like to know who the other teams are that are doing that, because I'm not following everybody.
Oh.
And it'd be curious to see who's doing that and where they are in the standings. I might look that up, but I probably won't.
Well, I think the only team coming to mind for me.
Honest, wait, I have a child that can do that for me.
I was gonna say the only team coming to mind for me in that capacity is Vegas. I'm sure there's others, but Vegas off the top of my head is usually like that too. But
and where are they? They're above us. You know, we are actually tied, believe it or not, with Toronto in points.
Oh man, speaking of Toronto,
I'm like, oh no.
did you see that trade? I made notes here. Speaking of Toronto, so they did a 3-team trade, but really it was mostly for like picks, right? Mostly for picks. Toronto got Ryan O'Reilly from St. Louis, and that other team in that trade was Minnesota, where they just really switched like draft picks around. But there seems to be a lot of interest, according to my social feed, if that's any highlight of this guy. So it's gonna be really interesting to see his, the strategy for Toronto going forward. I mean, we're planning the parade, I'm sure, up Yonge Street as we talk, but there's a lot of excitement around this guy. So it's going to be, I'm curious to see how this plays out.
Toronto has a lot to overcome in this run. So, and their troubles don't even start now. Their troubles start when playoffs begin.
Yes.
So I'm not worried about them right now.
I think their trouble started in like 1968 after the last cup, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, on that note, ladies, actually, it looks like the Rangers play Toronto one of the last games of the regular season. I think it might be the last game on April 13th. That could be.
I got my friend Glenn, Andrea's husband Glenn, who's a big Toronto fan, and so we'll challenge him. If we're broadcasting live around that time, maybe we can get him on right before the game and get his take. That would be
definitely
really fun.
Definitely.
Well, on that note, Sarah, have a great time at the game.
Well, and also, we cannot end this without saying thank you to our 400 plus followers.
Oh, yes.
We continue to grow, and that was a little over a month. So, so it's exciting to meet everybody. We'd love to meet you all in person. So come find us. But yeah, we continue to grow. We love your support. We'd love to hear from you with questions or topics, feedback. So don't hesitate to send us messages on where we can improve, what you like. We learn from you, and that's why I give credit to those guys that are chatting on our feed that we're kind of part of, because I do listen to them. I do follow what they're saying, and I do like their perspective on things. So I love continuing to learn from younger, older men, women, and different feedback that we are getting from even coworkers and friends and family and kids.
Definitely.
So thank you so much. We're on to 500, and so we're gonna have to make this happen, and we'll have to have a giveaway for that too.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
For sure. And if you are just listening to our podcast, please come find us on social media as well. We're on Instagram at _Dfense without the E _NYR. We are on Facebook as well and Twitter. Please come find us. Please come say hi. It's been a great adventure.
So much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.